I'd like to call to order the Springboro Community Schools Board of Education meeting for May 10th, 2018. Roll call.
Anderson.
Here.
Bath. Here. Palage.
Here.
Liz.
Here.
Stuckey.
Here. Rise for the pledge, please. It's back there in the corner.
Yeah, well, tiny one on the other side of the screen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. 1.1, approval or adoption of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion? Second, comment, Dan. Roll call.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bath. Yes. Palage.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. 1.2, approval of April 12, 2018 meeting minutes. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Bath. Yes. Palage.
Yes. Yes.
Stuckey.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
1.3, approval of April 25th, 2018 spatial meeting minutes. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bath. Yes. Palage.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Mayor, you're up.
President, members of the board, over the last 2 years, we've been bringing student groups to these board meetings almost every meeting. And I think this might be the first time that Clear Creek has been here. And so it is, I am excited to introduce Mrs. Porter to introduce our program.
Good evening, board members, administrator, treasurer, Ms. Floyd. I'm not going to speak very long at all, but I want to give you a little recap. About 2.5 months ago, 4 women entered my office, and they looked like they were on a mission. Mission impossible, but I would say after the success we've had so far, it's been mission possible. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Wilkes. She is a occupational therapist in the district. Dawn Williams is an intervention specialist. First grade teacher Tina Krukenberg, and intervention specialist Amy Parks. And I'm going to let them talk about the wonderful idea they shared with me in my office about 2.5 months ago.
So our first slide is we are designing a sensory garden in space that we are currently not utilizing very well. This is what our courtyard currently looks like. You can see it's not very good. We're having more and more kids diagnosed with sensory issues, so this is kind of how this came about. So in the garden, we want the children to learn to predict and plan, observe, weed and water, measure, and research.
So our kids come to us from the elementary age, very young age. They all have little buckets that they're carrying around as far as it goes how we take in our senses. And that can be the way we hear, the way we see, the way we touch, the way we move. And so in the day and age of technology these days, these kids are coming to us with these empty buckets. And so the goal with my background, because I'm seeing it a lot more, not just in just kids that need occupational therapy, but all kids need it. We wanted to merge that sensory model with the academic model to be able to fulfill those buckets for our students. So it's, coming to school, if they've been on technology all morning and then we're expecting them to sit a little bit more, which is more of a learned behavior by the time you get to an adult, because kids are meant to move, they're meant to have fun, and that is kind of our vision with the way that we want to go with our kids, to be able to service them, to make them succeed.
have an art area where they can be creative, again, with items that have been donated and also fulfilled by our donors choose page. Texture pathways are also something that we have set up for our sensory garden. This slide is something that we are going to work on. Every teacher, every first grade teacher is going to themselves, not the class, paint a 12 by 12 block to contribute to the sensory garden. And then, this is an area you can walk barefoot and feel the different textures. You have probably have grass, you have, the river rock, they all have different feelings to them. And we have science and much more.
So we had this vision and realized we had no money. So, the story of a teacher. So we had to come up with a way to raise some funds. So we decided to have the children make bowls in art class and blaze them, and the high school teachers were wonderful. We set them up and we took them up every day, and they fired them for us and back up. And then we had an ice cream social last night. So we're a little exhausted, but it was wonderful. We had about 800 people there last night to help us raise funds for the sensory garden and as a send-off for our first graders going to the separate buildings because they won't necessarily be together again until 6th grade. So we thought that would be a nice time for the families to come together and just enjoy the evening together. And we did raise some funds. Fabulous. And these are some of the things that we are asking for people to donate, just if you have it at home or want to donate to the project or, feel like coming and helping us if you're good at any of these things, that would be wonderful. We will be there all summer working.
So I believe the idea is to do this in 3 phases over the next 2
Yes,
summers.
yes. So we have somebody coming in to take care of the grass. We're getting rid of all the grass because it's just hard to mow in there. There's no outside laying it in. So you come through the building with a mower, or the mower just stays there all the time. So, we're having the grass killed, and we're going to fill the area with mulch and gravel and stepping stones and all that kind of stuff. So this is a plan for that. One of our teachers is an architect, or was an architect, so he drew this up for us to scale on how we can fill in all those spaces. So I'll let you guys take a closer look at that later. And I can have my little darlings come on up. We have little gifts for all of you to hopefully make your board meeting go sooner.
Thank you. That sounds good. Thank you very much. It's about to. Very confident.
Yes, I would open it now.
Oh, goodness.
Yes.
Oh.
So it's ear holes were made from little hands in first grade, and that is what they used last night for the ice cream social. Any questions?
Did you raise enough the amount of money that you need?
Is there ever enough? We raised enough to get started.
So what will the 3 phases look like?
Depends on the money.
Phase 1 is getting that ground cover down and kind of knocking out some areas, and then we had a donors choose that was fully funded. So we have stuff that'll go up, and Lego vertical wall.
Jumbo building blocks.
So how much was that one for?
That was $1,200.
And that one's fully funded?
That is fully funded.
And so that will be the summer's project?
Summer's project is getting that grass out and then putting down the pavers and the landscaping.
Does the 1,200 cover that?
No.
No, that was what the fundraiser was for. The
Oh, I
ice
see.
cream social.
So you do have enough to fund?
We're not sure, actually, because we don't know, it's a pretty big space. So we also did, with the Touchdown Club, we partnered with them and had people maybe add a bag or two to the order to donate back. So we received, I think it was 55 or 58 bags from that of mulch. So once the grass is gone and we can paint out our areas and get that mulch in, then we will know how much more we'll need. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm not a landscaper, so like I do my yard, I'm gonna order 5 yards, and if I need more, I'll,
Right.
So.
How can people stay updated on what your needs are for that?
Well, I was actually trying to talk my husband into that today. Maybe Jim will go the website so that we can
Yeah.
keep it going.
Like, would it be on like Clear Creek's page that we could
I
link
would
to?
think, yeah. So that's.
Okay,
yeah.
that would be great.
And in that way, we can put out pictures of where we are, what we're doing, when we're gonna be there working, if anybody wants to come. We have a Boy Scout coming to build the bridge for us, our bridge. He's organizing Boy Scouts, he's gonna come do that.
There's a lot of Girl
Girl Scout
Scouts,
troops.
Girl Scouts, and we have connections with the community service, so there's a lot of connections to help us get started.
That's what I was looking for, because I think that if you put the needs out there, we could help you connect with other organizations to help move this along through donations and through community groups to help with the labor, so it's not
We had,
teachers and families
We
doing
had,
it.
the
exclusively.
ROTC, kids, I mean, not kids, but they were there last night and they were scooping ice cream and face painting
Great.
and handing down houses and everything.
That's awesome. So would this be something that will be for all students or at
Yes.
Clear Creek?
Yeah, every student, that way the teacher has the opportunity to not just do the classroom-based education, but
Great.
to also take them outside and integrate those sensory experiences that fill those buckets,
Yeah.
essentially, the sensory buckets for everybody.
Awesome, just a practical thing. For the upkeep of this, just because you're right, it was a nightmare for the landscaping part of it. Would this be something that, like, how will we do the upkeep of this? Just because I can't fully visualize, I've never seen a sensory garden before.
Right.
Would this be something that, like,
It'll be very low maintenance because we're not gonna have the grass or anything like that. The thing that would be the hardest to take care of would be the plants.
okay,
And
that's,
each year, we'll have to replenish mulch and that kind of stuff. So if we do,
And some of the stations are maybe gonna have like awnings, we would like to have the
Right.
stuff covered, so
Like
it
there's
doesn't
a-
get, damaged with rain or snow, or, and if it's recyclable, it should be able to.
okay.
so the items that are going in it aren't necessarily costly. If that
Right,
makes sense.
right, yeah.
So, the main thing is the base of it, to get that going so we have safe paths for them to walk on, and for us to walk on, and to be able to reach all the different areas.
And I think that each year, if you need, like with the plants, that little area with all those little, cute little boots hanging down, I think that, people are doing more than willing to help donate to that. If you have the donors choose come up every year, I think that that's something that we all will be willing to help out with to keep it going. I think you're gonna see, families want to donate to make this successful. It's an amazing idea. Great job having that brainstorm and bringing it to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you really don't know how much more money you'll need?
We don't.
Okay. We have a fund as a board that
Okay.
we donate to like STEM Fest. So if we made a contribution of, what do you think?
1,000? Is that what we gave to Sunfest? We did 1,000? Yeah. Is that something we can act on?
$10,000 right now?
This isn't on. We can act on that tonight? Yeah, I think that would be a great
Would
idea.
that help you out?
Yes, that would definitely help.
Last
And we didn't come here
No.
to get more money. Obviously, I didn't know you did that. You just wanted to let this be known, so if anybody wanted to help and reach out, they could.
Well, the only way we're gonna do money, kids, I want you all to listen to me. We always make sure the kids look at the board meetings. So, in order to get $1,000 for this project, each one of you, I want you to tell us loudly, so everyone can hear, what's the most exciting thing about this garden for you, or what are you looking forward to most? Are you ready? Okay. Are you ready? Okay, loudly. What's your most exciting part?
The flowers.
The flowers, great. Walkways, okay. Stepping stones. Math? Smart kid. All right. Art? Art? Nice. You guys did a great job. Any more questions, comments? All right, kids, listen up here. Now, this is a special board meeting because you came here and you sat here, you helped out, you helped your teachers prepare. So this is something we do at every board meeting. I have 7 books here, and I'm going to give these to Mrs. Corder because inside each book is a different label. And it says, this book is donated to the Clear Creek Library on behalf of, this one is Evie. Who's Evie? Yeah, so you will sign your name here tonight, and it says for her presentation to the board on May 10th. So every book has a different name. So whenever one of your classmates checks one of these books out, they'll see the book is there because you guys were at this board meeting. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, you can't leave yet because yeah? Yes, you can. You can check yours out first. So I'll have Mrs. Porter do this. What we wanted? Yeah, you got a question? There you go. Very good. We're going to have you guys stand. I know what's this. You're in front of the board? We're going to have you and your teacher stand with the board. We're going to get a special picture of you. Come on up.
And while they're doing that, these are the donors that helped us with the ice cream social and anyone else that just helped us so far to get things together. So we want to make sure that they were noticed.
All right.
You go.
Where are you at?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys.
You're not going to get in anybody's way. It's all right. You're good.
Yeah. Hold the books up. Hold the books up. Yep. Kids, now look at the camera. Look at the camera. Stand up straight. Stand up straight. You're going to be what we call Facebook famous. Kids, here, on the count of 3, we're going to take a picture, but I want you to say, on the count of 3, we're going to say summer school. 1, 2, 3.
Summer school.
All good? We're going to take about a 5-minute break so the families can kind of chat a little bit, and then they'll
She didn't share your lunch over.
I had salted caramel and not
Do you see? That's what I'm saying.
Hey, but like Bill Fox would have to be a teacher of record because he teaches that course. Then he'd have to look. He'd have to be willing. He'd have to look at everything and. Right.
For Ohio licensing.
Yeah.
They're the ones that
Trying to stay under 75 seconds.
Oh my goodness, I better.
I said we only have to use that 5 seconds. That's considered good.
Springboro Education Association tonight. 2, 3 for the classified employees. Public participation, prearranged, I don't believe there was any. Public participation on any agenda item. Is there anyone? All right, we're moving on to convene for the work session.
The first item of the work session is 2018-19 school fees. Mrs. Cook, Ms. Cook.
Good evening, Mr. Stuckey, members of the board. You have before you lists of proposed school fees for next school year. We do not have significant changes from any of our buildings. You may see slight changes in areas due to inflation costs from our vendors. However, there is nothing there that is significantly different from last year. All principals have reported their fees per typical fees such as paper, technology. Those are the same as they have been in the past several years, and for elective coursework and the core courses throughout. So all grade levels, K through 5, very similar. 6 on up are based on the coursework that the student chooses to take. So if they're taking a music course, they may have a different fee than if they're not taking a music course. If they're taking AP courses at the high school level, those are based on materials for those courses.
I have one question. I know it's been on here for years. With the paper fee, is that just for like what teachers are using in class that the kids don't bring, like for high school?
The paper fee is going to be to run copies for students for any papers that might be a test, a worksheet.
Gotcha, so it's like copies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Notebook paper.
Right, this is the first year we've actually put that in there. It's never been in there before.
Oh, so it hasn't been in there?
Nope.
It's
Okay.
been in there for the lower grade levels
Right.
for many years.
Yep.
Gotcha, okay.
And his
Okay.
is at the same
So
rate
it's like-
as theirs.
Say it again.
His fee has been added at the same rate that we have had for K-8 for years.
Gotcha, okay. Thanks.
Our next 3 items come to us from Walking Roads.
I'm dressed up, so I want to be on camera. All right, my first item tonight is our pay to participate fees for 2018-19 school year. Every year we're trying to assess where we need to be able to cover the cost of the athletic department. At this time, we feel we're able to do that with the current fees of $260 for high school student athletes, $160 for junior high, with a $1,040 family cap. So we keep things the same this year and then reassess next year where we are. If we needed to increase, hopefully we can stay where we're at. So I can keep those the same. Next is our athletic passes for the 18-19 school year. We have really dove into the ticket tracker system this year. We've been scanning tickets and passes with some newly purchased scanning, newly purchased scanners. It's given us a lot of data and feedback on our passes. This was the first year that we did this as much as we have, and there were a little bit of growing pains. We learned some technological issues that we have, especially at football games, where you have so many people coming in the gates. So we kind of need to reassess our equipment a little bit, and as far as adding some more to help us out. In doing that, I don't know that we got exactly the feedback I was looking for, because there were some times where we were out on the technology. So that being said, with that learning curve, we're not really ready in any way to change from what we've done from our passes, and want to keep with the $75 for adult passes and $50 for students until we can really be clear with that data to see if our passes are worth more or less. They look like, from the data that we do have, that they're right about the correct price, but I don't know that that's 100% accurate. We'd like to get a little better next year. The only thing that's changing, though, is we're eliminating the reserved seats for football. That's something we've done in the past. Last year we sold 29 reserved seats total. And what I see when I'm on the field looking up is a huge open space in the middle of the field where people are not sitting, where generally you want people to be sitting, and that's the best seat in the house. It really doesn't even make sense to pay someone to monitor the reserved seats because we're not making that into reserved seat sales. So we've just eliminated that, and hopefully people will start sitting in the middle of the field and cheering
seat.
They do. But from what I'm gathering is a lot of the people on the list that I looked at aren't sitting there. And because, you know, they didn't purchase them necessarily, it was some kind of a comp seat, then they don't sit there. Then I think that others are noticing that they're available and sitting there anyway. So we kind of, either way is not great, so we're gonna just eliminate that and let people sit where they want. So that's the only change as far as our athletic passes go.
Yeah, before we move to 3.5, any questions on 3.3 or 3.4?
I think it's a good call. I think you're completely right with the reserve seats.
3.5 is the discussion of adding a JV golf coach supplemental. So a little bit of background here. This year we had 23 students try out for our boys golf team, and we kept 16, which is more than we kept in the past, and tried to run 3 teams so that more kids got opportunities. The problem was we only had 2 coaches. So those coaches had to just kind of juggle their schedules and then what happens is some kids either weren't being coached that day or had the day off. And it ended up that our kids didn't get the opportunities that they really should have gotten in a season. So our coaches just kind of voiced, we can't do this anymore, trying to coach 3 teams with 2 coaches. So we kind of have 2 options. It's either option 1 is we keep things with 2 coaches and keep 2 teams, which would keep about 13 to 14 boys in our program. This will mean a number of boys would get cut. I mean, this year that would mean cutting 10 or 11. Our junior high program is not an official school-sponsored program, but that team has 21 boys right now. So we're going to get an influx in participation from the junior high. So if we don't increase the number of teams we allow, we're going to be cutting more students. So option 2 would be adding a 3rd team and a coach to go with that. In doing the math, if we go from keeping 13 or 14 on 2 teams, jump that to, we would have to keep a minimum of 18, 6 on each team, that's what plays every day. So we'd be looking at 18 to 20 kids. So if you go, it's adding 6 to 8 players, 6 to 8 students. If you multiply that by the $260 pay to participate fee, you're getting $1,560 to $2,080, depending on what the numbers are. The cost of adding another coach's supplemental salary is $1,849. So in short, it basically pays for itself and kids get more of an opportunity. If we don't do it, then we're just not keeping those kids. There's not enough opportunities for them to play on 2 teams. So.
How many teams are at the high school?
2, varsity and JV. So we're basically adding a JV-B team or a freshman team.
Okay.
What is the cost? Sorry, but the coach.
Adding the coaches supplemental is $1,849.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. 3.6, 2019-2020 school calendar. This was developed by a team that represents the administration as well as all 6 buildings in the district. Very similar to last year's calendar. Actually, the last couple of years, and remember, this is not next year, this is the following year, 2019-2020. The significant changes are we're going to move the teacher in-service day to the Friday before the week that we would normally have. Normally we would have 3 teacher in-services on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then bring students back to school on Thursday and have a 2-day week. In the room, the teachers were adamant that a 3-day week is better than a 2-day week at the start of school. The August 9th date, that teacher in-service day is more of a flex day. Some teachers come that day, some go at different times during the summer, they switch it out for that day. The reason we do that, though, is because when you get to Easter, you get the week off before Easter and then the day after Easter off. If we didn't do that, we would be coming back the Monday after Easter. By doing all of that, that allows us to have the last day of school on Thursday the 21st and teacher work day on the 22nd. Now, the next question might be, well, what happens if this crazy superintendent closes more than 5 days of school? When are we going to make those up? Well, we're going to be bringing something to you here in the future where we're going to be looking at E-days, blizzard banks type of thing, where people will be able to do the during school and not need to make up work after school. But that will be a discussion later on. Today, we're just talking about the calendar, and the calendar as it stands right now is the same number of days, work days, the same number of student days. You're just maybe starting one day earlier and having, so that we can have that Monday after Easter. Questions? All right.
I do have a question. Okay, so I know this is just the calendar, but at the bottom of the calendar, it says, I'll make up days if need to be following the last day.
Because that other discussion isn't done yet, not finalized.
Right.
So when that happens, then we would come back and adjust the calendar, announce it to all parents and staff and so forth.
But that decision is not made by the board, right?
The board does
Because
have to pass a policy on that.
Yes,
All right?
correct.
Yeah, that's a board policy that we would be looking at in the next couple of months. That's actually a board policy that will come through the policy, the board policy group, and then come here.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Pennell, 3.7.
All righty, a few things for you. Just want to catch up, everybody. Of course, we're done with state testing. Our air testing is done, air, OELPA, and alternative assessments. We gave a total of 19,513 tests between April 9th and April 30th this year. That's a load. They did a great job. The staff is outstanding. The students really stepped up, and everybody did a great job at testing. So we've got that going, and we'll see when the results come back in June. Over the summer, as a reminder, we'll be going through the addition at Clear Creek. We've got the junior high turn lane that will be occurring in mostly July. It will be starting soon, but most of the work, I think, will be in June and July. If everything goes through, there'll be the turf and the track things. The high school windows, because of where they fall and what we intend to do, I'm planning to put that out to bid here in a couple, 3 weeks, with you all approving that sometime in the July board meeting. And then install would probably be October, November, December timeframe this year, rather than July or August. That works into the schedules. Another piece is because of just the availability of metal, they're way behind on metal for windows. Right now, the lead time is about 16 weeks. We anticipate by the time we get to the end of summer, we'll be back to that 10 to 12 weeks. So that would put us into that time frame, and that's another reason we're pushing it back. And then we work with the installer on making sure that that's done in a timely manner and not disruptive of the educational process. 3 other things that I wanted to bring to your attention. Number one, we put a new phone system in 2 years ago. We bought the phones, and it's a hosted voicemail system. We're not real thrilled with the company that's doing it. Their contract's up June 30th. So we're contracting with a different company to do that. That should save us right around $1,200 to $1,400 a month. But also bring back some of the capabilities we've lost and make things more stable. We've had some unstable things the last couple of years with the phone system. So we've got that going. We're going to be implementing an online facilities program so that all facility uses will be done through this program, so that everyone in the district that's in the district will be able to see what's going on in each building. Because right now it's kind of difficult. We don't know sometimes what's going on in another building because there's not one central repository for the use in each building, because they handle that by building. They'll still be handling it by building, but it will be the calendar will be centralized. So every time someone puts in a schedule event, it will go on this centralized calendar. And then as we implement this, we'll determine about how public we want to make that. Some of the school districts that use this program make everything public and people, I mean, I could see every single event that's going on in every building at every time. I don't think we're going to do it that far, but at least we can show what's available and what's not available, even to the outside public. It just will show that it's busy or whatever. The company that we're purchasing this through is called Dude Solution. It used to be called School Dude for years, but yeah, Dude Solution. What can I say? Another thing that I'm gonna bring up now, but it's actually part of the safety thing too, is for the last 4 years on and off we've been talking about a visitor badge type system. So we're going to implement Lobby Guard. It's one of the most popular ones around. It's got the most school districts in the area, and it's very well thought of in the school districts that are using it. So that is another one that we'll be getting in after July 1, and then we'll be implementing it. We'll be determining after July 1 then also the implementation, how it's going to fit into each building, and then training the clerical staff and the admin staff on its use and how to be able to get to everything. But luckily we've got 2 months there that we'll be able to get that done before it hits the fan. That's all I have for you. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Thank you.
3.8 is an addition to tonight's board agenda. Solange, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll start. I can turn it over to Mr. Purnell. Just a little bit more about the product itself. But in the safety committee meeting we had earlier this week, there was some conversation about potentially adding some door stops, for lack of a better term, that we'd be able to provide to our classrooms. That in the event of a situation in schools, that our teachers would be able to lock down the doors to the rooms as opposed to having to barricade desks and that sort of thing. And in conversation with Mr. Goods, who's also in the committee, we thought that potentially could be a good use of our board initiative funds, something that we could, as a board, help out with in terms of the purchase, which I believe is around $25,000.
Correct. That $25,000 would be the purchase, and the install of the night lock system on each door that would be used for securing students. So not necessarily every single door in the district, but it's anyone where a student would be at any time. And there are certain issues with that. You have to have a certain distance under the door to be able to use, so that the first responders can use the tool to unlock it should there be an emergency and they have to get in. So that includes all of that. That's purchasing one for all the doors, and then also the install of that.
Okay, that was going to be one of my questions that I didn't get a chance to ask in the meeting. This would cover all of the doors where we have students?
Correct.
So include any, because I think there were some doors that need maybe some modifications.
Correct. We've got most of them, it's just there's not enough room under the door to be able to slide the tool up to get it. So, and Night Lock and Bolo Stick are the two main ones that work no matter which way the door swings. So it doesn't matter whether you have a door that swings out or a door that swings in, it works on both types. So that's why the Night Lock. It's also, the same thing that Clear Creek got half of theirs donated almost a year ago now, when she first came in. And we've been, talking about trying to figure out how to make that happen for the rest of the district.
So that was just something we just wanted to bring to the rest of the board, since it was a conversation in the safety committee.
Mr. Purnell, if you had this money, when were you hoping to start this project?
Well, that'll occur over the summer.
So our next board meeting is?
June
10th.
10th, something like that.
So if the board waits till then to approve the money, does that put you behind it all?
No,
Okay.
that's still, I will make some calls to the Night Lock company to make sure that we can get that amount at that time, but I don't see that as being a problem. Because we're building walls and doing a few other things, and then, that would be a good project for July when it's hot and horrible outside, and I might have some extra folks around, plus the other people that I was planning to use to install.
So would that cover for rooms like this, it would cover the?
Correct. Those two doors. Now, I didn't include these doors because these go into other classroom areas. So those areas would have the outside in the hallways.
But it's including anything that a student might come into, even if it's not a traditional classroom?
Correct, right. And like for the office area, one for the main office door, but not the individual offices.
Right, okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Mr. President, we're ready to move to the 5-year forecast presentation.
So John, we already have these in existing, at least one existing.
Well, we haven't installed them yet because we're waiting until we get to the district-wide conditions.
Okay.
So she's got half of her doors, approximately enough for half of the doors, but they're at her building waiting to be installed. The second, that one. Nope. What's that? Yeah, they don't have the cool thing for you, sorry.
All right. Okay, so tonight I'm going to run through the 5-year forecast May update for you. And I have provided each of the board members with a packet that will help you guys keep track as I go through. It will keep me on track too as I go through. So the first thing we're going to do is start with,
You want a microphone?
yeah, can you hear me? I can
No, here.
I've got mine All right. I'll hold it here. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was just show this page in your packet. It's also on board docs. Okay, so this is basically a simplified 5-year forecast to just kind of show you the main points of what a 5-year forecast is going to show us. So it shows us our beginning balance for this year, as well as what we anticipate our future balances to begin with for each of the other years in our forecast from 19 through 22. It also shows you anticipated revenue for both this year and the next 4 years, expenditures for this year and the next 4 years, as well as our ending balance for what we anticipate for this year and the next 4 years. You can also see on the yellow line, it shows whether we're going to have a revenue surplus or a deficit anticipated at the end of each year. So you can see this year we're anticipating a $1 million surplus to our revenue over expenditures. But then the rest of the years in the forecast, we do show a deficit spending in each of those years. And I'll explain here in a few minutes why we have an additional, why we have a surplus this year and not deficit spending for this year. So first, let me kind of give you a little history of where we were in December. So if you remember correctly, we had a conversation in December where I provided an updated forecast based off of the triennial update possibilities, as well as the fact that we did pass our substitute continuing emergency levy, as well as we received increases in our public utility pipeline from Texas Eastern. So I wanted to show the board at that time, since it was a great deal of revenue increases from the October forecast to December after that levy passed, I wanted to be able to show the board what those possible changes were going to be. On page 5, I'll be able to show you. Those clickers are really nice to have. So on page 5, the anticipated reappraisal for 2018 is now showing 13.2%. Originally in the forecast, I had 10% increase. So this anticipated 13.2 residential increase in our property values is going to be lowering our effective rate due to House Bill 920 by 2.12 mils. So what will happen now is the district will hit the 20 mil floor. And I know I've talked about this before, that we were heading towards a 20 mil floor, but because our value increases are anticipating for the 2018 triennial update to be 13.2% versus the 10 that we were looking at before, we would hit that floor this year.
Can you explain that a little bit for people that don't understand the floor?
So what House Bill 920 does is as your values increase, all of the levies that have been approved historically over time were set at whatever mills were needed at that time in order to collect the amount of money that the voters approved. So as your values increase, they roll back the effective rates of those tax levies in order for you not to over-collect what was approved by voters originally. But what they have is a statutory floor, which basically says, as your values increase, we can only roll back mills so far. Once you hit the 20-mil floor, you cannot roll back taxes anymore. So at that point, whenever increases in property taxes and property values that happen, then we receive those additional revenue for those taxes. So they cannot roll them back anymore at that point. So that is going to be happening to us. So as inflation occurs and the value of your property does increase, your taxes are going to increase. So that's what happens when you hit the 20-mil floor. We're the first district in Warren County to hit the 20-mil floor. There is a few other districts that the auditor anticipates may hit the floor next year, but we are the first one. So we'll be going through this process first. So I will have a chart. I will have a chart showing a House Bill 920 literature on the Treasurer's page. I will also have a chart to explain, what House Bill 920 does and what it means for you. There's a tax calculator already out there, so as you receive in your tax bills, you'll be able to do tax calculations to see what those costs might mean for you. Also,
Well, hitting the 20 or the 20 mil with the substitute levy, people need to understand that the substitute levy is not raising their taxes.
that's correct. And that's one of the biggest messaging things that we will have, because unfortunately, we hit the floor a little sooner than we were anticipating. So we want to make sure that messaging is very clear that your taxes are not increasing due to the substitute levy. Your taxes are increasing due to us hitting the 20-mil floor, and then what that means for you.
Kind of happens
So,
at the same time.
yes, and I do have a chart that will very easily show what is happening with the emergency substitute levy, and then it'll be able to show how that rate is still being rolled back. So, so the substitute continuing levy is for a set dollar amount. The only growth that levy will have is for new construction, as discussed back when we did the levy process. So as we hit the floor, the rate of that levy will continue to be reduced in order for us to only receive that flat dollar amount. And then the only revenue we'll receive in addition to that is from the new construction. So that will also be on the Treasurer's page, so it'll be very clear. And then I'm sure we'll be doing a lot of messaging through Scott Communications just to show very clearly of how that rate for the substitute levy is still reducing, which means it's not costing any additional money for the taxpayers for that levy alone. It'll only be for the other levies, not the substitute levy. And that'll be very clear to be able to see on the charts that we receive from the county auditor.
So can you help me understand, one of the questions I had asked you ahead of time was, since we're hitting the 20 mil floor earlier than we anticipated, how is it that we're still, if our 5-year goes through like we anticipate, how is it that we're still going to need to ask for more money in 2020 if we're hitting the 20 mil floor earlier? Because it seems like that's giving us more taxes sooner than we anticipated.
Right, it is, but what's happening is our expenditures are increasing faster than our revenue is increasing. So we can't expect to have a 13% increase every year. So the 13% was actually way higher than anticipated. So in the off years, when it's not a full update, it's just the regular year-over-year update, the increases are much smaller. So we're not going to be receiving a bunch of additional revenue for those because they're just small amounts of year-over-year increases. But then the triennial updates, I have modeled a high increase of 10% in those years because you've seen a 10% last time and now 13.2%. So the trend is showing that every time there is a triennial update, we're going to be continuing to receive those larger increases. So we actually have something that I had in here to discuss. We have added $1.7 million in anticipated revenue over the rest of the forecast due to hitting the floor in those additional, that that additional revenue that's anticipated.
How much was it?
It's 1.7. So when you look at the net of the forecast from October until now, it's only $1 million higher as a total increase, but that's because there has been some additional expenditures that have been also added to the forecast that we'll talk about.
When is the next triennial update?
It's at 21.
21.
Yeah, so we just had one in 8. It'll be finalized this year. They've already got all their numbers in, and that's how we're able to know about where we're going to be. But then it goes every 3 years. And they usually start it the year before, so they'll start it in 20 to be finalized in 21.
So again, so we're not in this forecast, that's really only 1 year then where you'd be collecting on.
Right, well, this forecast, then we'll start to receive
After the next.
half in fiscal 19, half of the collection year in fiscal 19, and then a full year in 20, 21, and 22 for just the increase.
Right, but I'm saying those updates are smaller
Yeah.
updates than those. So I'm saying when you had the next one where potentially it would be a larger.
Right, we'll
amount,
probably get
it's
half in
continued,
22.
You would just be a small
Yeah.
portion of this thing. So that's the increases you're getting from hitting the floor because the next
It's
triennial
just
update
for
is
this
until
triennial.
21. It doesn't, it's not going up 13% every year.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. So we have a 13.2% built in for this year for collection next year. And that right there will ride us through until the next triennial because we'll have very small year-over-year increases after that. And then the next triennial that will start in 20 and be done in 21 will start to receive half of that revenue in 22. Okay. And I'm always available for questions if you have any questions. If I forget to say something or I don't explain it well enough, feel free to call or email
I do.
me. You have some more questions?
No, I said I called.
Oh, no, you're fine. And I'm always glad to do that. Also, I wanted to clarify one additional thing. So you'll notice when we talked about how we are not done suspending this year. However, every other year in the forecast we are. There's a new tax law that was just introduced where they encourage taxpayers, if you had the cash, to go ahead and pay your tax bill early prior to January 1st, 2018, and then that way you were able to write off the entire amount on your 2017 federal taxes. So that increased our tax collection this year quite a bit, but then they reduced it next year because they paid it early, so we won't be receiving that in the second half of the collection, which runs into the next fiscal year. So it's basically we received an influx in tax revenue this year to make us look like our revenue is higher this year, but then it's lower next year due to the fact that we're not going to be receiving the money when we're usually used to getting it because they paid it early. So that's why you'll see one is a hike, and then next year it's been lowered back to normal, so it'll even out. That part wasn't a little bit sure. Next thing is public utility. Public utility, the same thing has happened. We received a 32% increase on our public utility. Those are our pipelines, the majority of them. And we received a 32% increase in 16 for collection in 17. And then 11.5% happened in 2017 for collection in 18. So there, and then also there's a slightly larger revenue stream this year due to the same thing. Pipeline companies were also offered to go ahead and pay their tax bill early and receive that. So there's an influx in the revenue this year for that, and it'll be reduced next year for those who did pay their tax bill prior to January 1st with that new tax law that just went into effect. The next item is state funding. This is our school foundation payments. The state per pupil share is $6,010 this year. The total that Springboro receives is $2,212 per kid, which is 36.74% of the state share index. So basically, as we get wealthier locally, as our property values increase, then we get less money from the state. So as you can see, we're anticipating from going from 36.74% that the state picks up and provides us with state funding down to 28.5% by 22. Due to the fact that, as I said, we're getting wealthier locally, which means we get poor from the state, so to speak.
In this projection on your exhibit, does that include growth in the student body? So is that a gross number in terms of multiplying by?
Yes, but there's actually very, very small increases that we have
Okay,
here over
so that's
year
essentially
projected.
flat, and you could, okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Is this a change from the last update? Or were we projecting similar
We had a
reductions?
10% increase in values for our triennial, so we didn't have quite as large of an amount that we were going to be receiving locally, so we didn't show our state funding going down quite as much either. So now that those values have increased higher than anticipated, then the 28.5% went down faster than it. So I think it was 29 point something, close to 30 before, so.
So is the 1.7 million number you referenced earlier, is that net of both changes?
Yeah, it's
That's
net
everything?
of the whole forecast. It's the net of the whole forecast. Property tax allocation, that's your rollback and homestead credits that we receive from the state on all of our levies for the owner-occupied homes as well as the disabled and senior citizens. They receive those credits. So that's the 12.5% that we get each year from the state as a reimbursement. So it's deducted from taxpayers' tax bills, and then the state reimburses us to make this whole. And that went away after 2012, but all of our levies still receive those credits. And then all of the operating levies are on page 10. This line represents school fees, investment earnings, excess costs, other miscellaneous revenue, just oddball revenue that we may get sometimes and not other times. Also, we did add the pay to participate fees. I know Austin brought it up earlier today, and he is correct. We received about $327,000, almost $328,000 so far in pay to participate fees. And then with the board's contribution that we no longer do the transfer of $365,000, we're about $50,000 to the good that we are anticipating after all expenses are paid. So that just shows that our between the board's portion and the pay to participate fees, that we are able to cover all of the expenses for the athletic supplementals and athletic director and assistant still. So we're still good on that. And in the October forecast, once the school year is over, I'll be able to get final numbers. We still have a couple supplementals to pay out and stuff, so I'll get final numbers in my update in October for that. But they are being covered as promised.
So with everything like within this count, or with this account, with what Austin brought to us, he said that piece of paper had that however much the
1845
right would cost. That doesn't include the uniforms and the transportation and the golf course fee. Does that still come under this category here, that it's still covered under the athletic fund?
That comes out of the actual athletic budget, which is separate from this, and that's where he receives the gate fees and athletic pass fees. Help me out. Did you go? Oh, there you are. But that's just your general budget, and that's where all of those items are paid for.
So that's still not covered out of the general fund?
No,
That's,
that
you
comes
just
out of
make
this
it
300.
happen, you move things around within the athletic fund, cover
Yeah.
that?
Mhm. Yes, that does not come from the general fund. And I did mention already that we have 1.7 million, but our forecast shows 1 million net effect due to the increase in the revenue and with a few other expenditures that I will be discussing. I'll show you guys this forecast compare. I wanted to show you before I start talking about expenses. I wanted to show you just the net effect so that you can see that really our expenditures are very, very, very close. I don't know that they've ever been quite this close. So we're doing really good on that. So this forecast compare basically shows the October forecast. It is page, let's scroll down, I'm sorry. 21 in your packet. And it's also on board docs. So this basically just shows you the October forecast on column A, and on column B is the new 5-year forecast. So we've talked about revenue already and why that number is higher, because of the accelerated tax payments from the federal law change, plus a slight increase in our public utility revenue because they went up another 11.2%, I believe, 11.5%. But when you look at expenditures, we are only $9,843 off what we expected to be spending in this fiscal year back in October. So you can see some variances within those categories. The biggest thing that I was looking into, and I know we had talked about this in a few other board meetings, because our benefits line was over and over, and I was just like, this is weird that it's been over so much. So I really started to dive into it. I noticed that a lot of it was from, we had staff that were out on long-term, I don't know what they were out for, that's not something I want to, talk about, but they were just out and they were taking leaves of absences or what have you. So we were having long-term subs that were filling those positions. We pay those long-term subs through purchase service. So this year they're back. So now we have our purchase service way down in almost identical amount. Our benefits section is up where we pay the retirement, the medical benefits, and Medicare and everything for those employees. So that's why that evened itself out, just because it was a year-over-year difference of where the expenses were coming from. So for personnel, for fiscal 19, we have added a personnel director and a counselor. We have moved a special ed coordinator that was being paid through purchase services. We have hired them on staff. So from the ESC. So there was just some slight changes there in personnel from the October forecast to now. And that's starting for next year. We know that one of them has already started, but that's just going to be a slight variance for this fiscal year, but the main cost for that salary will be for next year. We are currently in negotiations, so I always like to make sure I explain that. We are in negotiations. We have a step in 1% built into our forecast currently, so anything that happens through the negotiation process that would be over that could definitely change the forecast depending on how that ends. I forgot to start scrolling down for you.
Tara, real quick, I'm sorry, I'm
No,
going
you're
to
fine.
jump around a second. So getting back to the prepaid taxes, how much did we actually receive this year, just rough numbers that we otherwise would have expected to come in next year?
It was close to $1 million.
$1 million. So is that on a fiscal year basis or just a calendar year basis that it would have?
It would have normally hit us in the next half of next fiscal year that hit us this.
So did it cross fiscal years or not?
It will cross fiscal years
Okay.
because after July 1 is when we would normally.
And really, when you show this is on cash basis, right?
Yes.
I mean, so in GAAP accounting, it would be unearned revenue, it would push it into next year.
Yes.
I think it's almost a little deceiving when you look at it because
Mhm.
you're expecting that to be there every year, which it
Right, and it's not.
too.
Yeah, so
I'm with
basically,
you. I just-
it's in one year, it's kind of almost like unearned revenue, but,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
You pick it up on the
It's
balance
not,
sheet
they gave it to us
instead.
early
Okay.
when normally they're supposed to give it to us, and that's it.
Thank you.
And then benefits, we did receive a 10% renewal increase notification here recently that our health insurance benefits are going to be going up 10% for next year. In the 5-year forecast before, I was projecting a 7% increase, so there was an increase that we are feeling from that, from the fact that we went up 10%. So since the last few, trying to look at what we can expect year over year, I have changed my assumptions for the 5-year forecast for the benefits section to go to 9% for fiscal 20 and 8% for fiscal 2021. Now you'll notice that I only have an increase of 7.5% on here showing for next year, and that's because even though we received a 10% increase, our premiums start coming out of people's checks and as well as the board portion in December for January premiums. So we won't have a full fiscal year of that 10% on the books. And so that's why I didn't just do a straight 10% increase. I did 7.5 and then I adjusted the 8% up to 9, actually it was 7% up to 9 for the next fiscal year. So that will full, since the calendar year is how our insurance premiums go, but we work off the fiscal year. So I wanted to capture only the expenses for that fiscal year that I knew we would have. So that's why it's not a full 10% that you see on there. But we did receive a 10% increase. For purchase services, we have projected a $425,000 coming out this year for College Credit Plus. I have built in an assumption for $450,000 for next year. Now this is just tuition. We still spend about $50,000 to $70,000 a year in books as well. So when I'm always talking about $500,000, it's because I'm always including the tuition as well as the book cost in that. But this is going to be monitored pretty close, and there's some new provisions that we have put in place. I know we've talked about them before. You have to be remediation free on a state standardized test, as well as have a 3.0 GPA. We've also gotten a lot stricter on our cutoff times where we're not allowing people to to enter the program after that cutoff line that ODE has given us to let those people take those courses. I think we also did a couple other things there trying to, we've had our biggest failure area is people taking CCP classes online. So we have done a provision that basically says you have to take a study hall if you're going to take an online class. So that right there may limit the amount of online classes people are taking, and since that's our biggest area where people are failing, that might mitigate that and help those students pass those courses. And maybe not take as many. That might also be where they're trying to take too many. And there's a lot of work when you're taking an online class outside of the class itself. So for supplies, let's see if I missed anything on purchase services. The purchase services I did increase for the modular release that was just approved. I have a fiscal 19 cost of $198,000 for the first year because we have to do one payment up front and then we have to pay monthly for the whole fiscal year's payment. So it'll drop down to $102,000 for the remainder of the forecast because it's an 8-year loan.
Is that all inclusive of build out construction?
No, I will get to, there's a couple other things, and I will share those here. Supplies, nothing changed for supplies. We are below again at this year on our supply costs, so we're under budget. The only change that we made in supplies is we did move $130,000 for textbooks that they were going to purchase this year that they're going to purchase next year. So we have moved that cost to next year, that money to next year, so they'll be able to purchase what they need and not have to use the allocation because the allocation they already had for next year is already planned as well. So that's why we moved that from this year's budget to next year's. And then, so that's the only other thing that's changed in supplies. Everything else is remaining steady. To your point, the only thing that we really added from the October forecast to May is $220,000. And that's going to be what will take care of the classroom furniture for the new modular as well as building the walkway for the new modular. So that's the only other difference in that. Everything else is came under budget this year for our equipment and no new requests. However, on your guys' packet, it will be something that I will post out there as well on the treasurer's page. I think it's important for us to discuss the fact that we have a lot of unmet needs still, and John just revised them for me. We have between $4 and $7 million of unmet needs still that we are not able to allocate in our current forecast because we do not have the money to set that aside. Some of those items include the remaining window replacements. John has been trying to take the $400,000 a year capital needs envelope issue, so to speak, budget where he's just the most urgent things that happen in the year he's buying, and then everything else gets put on the unmet needs list. So we still have $400,000 of windows that need to be purchased at the high school. He's trying to address little by little, but if another item ends up being a necessity, that gets pushed back onto the unmet needs list. We need some additional vehicles for maintenance and replacement vehicles. We have replacement grounds equipment at $40,000. We need additional parking lots for the high school, 5 Points and Clear Creek at $300,000. Additional paving to relieve drop-off and pick up at intermediate school. That's at $200,000. Upgrade security cameras district-wide, $200,000. Complete paving the existing lots that we already have at $500,000. A possible increase, this was the one where I said between $4 and $7 million because we have possible increase to building should there be an increase of building permits that would cause us to have an influx of students. If we had to build on to any of our existing buildings, it would be about $250,000 a room. Also, we build out Educare to use that for at some point to be able to use that for student needs. That's $2 million to build that out. And then also the last thing on the unmet needs list is to upgrade auditorium sound system, the lighting panels, stage lights, curtains, and the control room at $400,000. So when you add up all of those, it's between $4 and $7 million in unmet needs. So I always want to make sure we still discuss the fact that there's, even though we're doing a lot of great things, we have a real shoestring budget in the lowest 3% in cost per pupil, and you know, there's only so much you can do within the budget that we have. So if I go back to the 5-year forecast, absolutely.
And I think to that point, you know, we can't always to that graph that went out many, many years ago with the pencils, where we were the shortest pencil. We can't always be that shortest pencil and always living on the shoestring budget, because we're missing things in doing that. And I think that makes the point of we have to look at where we're at now and what we have coming in front of us of projections of not just what John called butts in the seats looking forward, but truly what is happening in Springboro with our growth and what might be coming. Our modular now is now at $1.1 million. And I think we've got to really look at our strategic plan of what are we going to do with the growth here. I don't think we want a bunch of modulars throughout Springboro. I think we've really got to dig deep. And when is EduCare available to us? Like to where we have freedom to do something with it?
The loan's paid off in 2030.
Okay, so we have a lot of years for that. So that's not an option for a while. But I think that to that point, we have to be looking and figuring out long-term, what are we going to do for this? Because we can't always be on that shortest, that shortest pencil, but we have to, this community requires transparency and for us to dig deep and look at all options across the board. And I think we don't want to get caught into a cycle of putting Band-Aids. And I think that right now we're digging out of some Band-Aids and like some busing situations that, what John's working, he's shaking his head back there, working through with getting through, to our bus fleet where it needs to be. We've got to get out of that cycle and get our planning ahead to where we know where we're going and we're planning ahead instead of trying to play catch up and just making sure that we've got a lot of big purchases and expense items that have been put into the budget and making sure that it's our focus. We've got some exciting things on the agenda coming up that are fabulous, but as we're putting big money into things, that it's focused on education and the things that are most important to kids, and the things that impact our kids the most are teachers, and making sure that we're retaining our teachers and doing what they need with professional development and the tools. This type of thing that they brought tonight with that sensory garden, we've got to be building into that kind of thing and doing what we can. Putting $1,000 into that is fabulous, because that's the kind of thing that is showing teachers that we support education. So I just think that as we're evaluating how we're spending the money, making sure that our money is going into, we have to do upkeep with buildings and stuff, but keeping that focus on what is it going to be that we can put the money into that's going to increase quality education.
I think that's all correct. I think that's why we've started the process that we've been talking about in our, whatever we call them, our special meetings, our work sessions, that were the retreats. That's the word I was looking for. In the retreats, that's why we've been doing that and are working toward. We had the discussion in our last one about our vision statement and really trying to understand what we want to be as a district and building out the plans about where we want to be in 5 years and 10 years, and encompassing things like facilities and what have you. So I think you're exactly right. I think you're just sort of, we are doing that, and yes, it's in its infancy, but I think that is something we're focused on as a board and are working toward through those work sessions. We've taken some of the first steps, and we've talked about doing some facility planning and bringing folks in to help with assessing our current facilities and their useful lives and those sorts of things. So I agree with everything you're saying, just building on the point that I think that's why we're focusing so much time on that long-range planning in those retreats and trying to build toward a plan that we can share with the community about here's where we're trying to go as a district.
I think if we can make as few big dollar decisions until we really come up with that as possible, the better.
Yeah, no, I think that's
especially,
fair.
yeah.
I think that's fair, because you're right. We need to have a sense of where we're going. We've had the conversations with David Connolly, is that his name? And he's asked us that question. And I don't think we have a great answer right now. I know we did a lot of work a few years back in setting the mission, but I don't know that we have a great vision. And so that's why we're trying to focus some more time on what is that 5-year, 10-year plan. And to your point, making sure that our decisions now align with that. I think that's exactly right.
And I agree, and we have had these conversations a lot, and we difficult situation because prior decisions have caused the district to have to be reactive in some cases, instead of being able to have that forethought and to be reactive. You know, definitely our revenue has taken a hit, even though we are receiving increases now that are helping us. We still could be in a lot better position than we actually are if prior decisions would have been different. And so that does make, unfortunately, more reactive decisions in some cases because we wait as long as possible, hoping to be able to stretch every dollar, and then we find that we actually have to react. And then, so it kind of goes to my point that as I close this, you know, we are a very low spending district, and we have hit the 20-month floor, and that will help us with a little bit of additional revenue. But in order for us to continue to provide even our current level of educational programs, we will need a levy within this forecast period no later than 2020. I mean, there's just no, unless we get lucky in the pipeline, the other pipeline comes through or something like that, there's just no way for us to avoid not having a levy within this period.
Is that something that would be in effect for the 2021 fiscal year?
Yes, so if the levy was passed in, say, May or November of 2020, we would start receiving collections in the first half of fiscal 21, and we would receive half of that in that fiscal year, for a full year in fiscal 22. And if we don't have, if we start to taper off and the things do stay steady as this forecast shows, we would need to do short-term borrowing if we did not, in order to even meet day-to-day operational things and payroll. We would need short-term borrowing in 22 if we did not pass the levy in 20. It would just complete by then. So, not a good thing to leave with, but it's just something it's very clear. We've been able to push it out a long time. And I remember when I first got here, it was like, oh, we're going to have a levy next year, you know, from what we've heard out there and things. But we've been very diligent in trying to be very, you know, resourceful with everything that we have. But it's just coming to the point where the revenue is not able to keep up with the expenses that are just solid expenses that we don't have very much leeway in.
Oh, we had one of the lowest per pupil cost in the state.
$7,500 a student. The average is well over 10.
I think as we approach this, knowing that levies are difficult in Springboro, that as we prepare, it's going to be key that we are just transparent through everything, and, you know, consciously, even if there's conversations that we have had that we're figuring out, how does that sound to everybody else? So if there's something that we have full understanding of, making sure that parents and community members and retired people and people that have preschoolers without kids in school, how does that sound? So I think evaluating even, and I know high school, I've said over and over, and it's a broken record, and I know you've looked at this, but continuing to look at CCP, and we can't tell kids they can't go out, but continuing to evaluate, is there an opportunity to reduce anything there when we have $500,000 going out to CCP? I think any little changes that we can make there shows the community that we're looking. We're looking at, are there other ways, because we have students that are leaving, that we could possibly save some money? You know, it might not make a huge difference that would stop the need for a levy, but it might help us reduce the mills. Just that transparency of, we're doing everything we can, we're not spending lavishly, we don't have a big pool that's, you know, whatever. But those little things, I think, just communicate a lot. Having lived through many, many levies, failed and passed here in Springboro, those are the things that just communicate trust to our community, that we're doing everything we can with your dollars to, you know, stretch them as far as we can, but still to give that quality education and to take care of the students and to take care of the teachers and to do what's best. So it's a challenge to all of us.
Yeah, and I think as we discussed in our last meeting on the vision, you know, that I think, you know, as we work through that process, absolutely there has to be something that involves the community, and, you know, is it done in a vacuum of the 5 of us or the 7 of us? That's going to have to be something that that we involve the community in like that, because we all have to sort of be on the same page, so. You were going to say something, Charles?
I was just gonna say, the latter part of what you said, I think that's exactly what all 5 board members would want to do. What was passed was the past. I think it's our responsibility to be as transparent, let people know, to answer all those questions. So, and that's what we'll do. I don't think we have any other, we don't want any other choice. It's not like there's an option. We need to be as transparent and let people know, but we have all these buildings that we need money. I mean, there are things that, talk about Band-Aids, that Mr. Pennell is probably one of the best at this, but these buildings need work. We've got Clear Creek, which it's an older school. It's working, it's great. We had modulars, that's wonderful. And to tell you the truth, I think these children their learning environment is a big influencer in their educational process, and I think we need to be careful that we have the money, which I don't believe we do now, to keep these buildings updated the way they should. And yes, we have great teachers, we want to certainly be more than fair to them. We have great students. So it's a wonderful community. We do a lot of good things, but it takes money to keep the lights on, keep attracting quality teachers and keeping them for a long time. Even with bus drivers, we were a great training ground. They come here, we train them, and then they leave, go to Centerville, make more money. I mean, is that the kind of place we want to be? Do we want to hire a first-year teacher and then have he or she come and then leave for more money? I don't. No, that really irritates me. So we need to shore up everything as a whole, everything as a group, and we need not to be afraid to communicate that out, because we need everybody's help to do it. And so I think that's what we'll do. I can remember what we talked about in 11 years, a couple years ago, and now we're talking about 20. So
It has to be by 20.
right. No, I know it has to be 20, but we need 21. So
Yeah, that's part of what we're going to be looking at with David Conley and looking at the master planning process.
Years ago, we were talking about 17.
Right.
And now, I mean, we've already pushed this off.
I think part of that is sometimes you can get so ingrained in what you're doing, I've done it at work, that I don't realize the message I'm communicating out, or that I'm missing things, and I can communicate something better. So that's my thing, is making sure that we're not missing something, and how is the community hearing something, to make sure that we're, touching base with them at all the different places. And we figured that out with some of the past levies, some of our key people, that we need to make sure that we're getting the message out to them so that they can then share it out with the people, their sphere of influences. There's key people in all of these different pockets that we've got to make sure, if there's something we don't understand, that they don't understand, that we give the time, and we, whether they're at the meetings, whether they watch the meetings on TV, or we spend the time with them, so that we're, they don't feel that there's any, even though we're not intentionally being, hiding anything, but that everybody, really feels like we're doing everything possible to get very clear information out to them. One of the ways I feel like we can be doing that is, and this is something that just came up as we changed our board meetings around, we either need to adjust some of one of our policies, or adjust some of what we're doing with our board meetings, but when things come in work session, having them voted at the same meeting with the transparency thing makes it really difficult, because there's not time for other people to have any time to digest it. It's difficult for really, even though we have a couple of days, they're really, according to one of our policies, 0165.1, we're supposed to have, it says work sessions will be for the purpose of presenting informational items to the board at a later meeting. So this is, I understand policies can be moved because this actually says that they can meet once every 2 months, but they regularly should meet twice monthly. We're doing it different now, so this policy needs to be updated. But to the point of transparency, we're not trying to hide anything by doing it the same meeting, but I think just to let people know, we're not trying to rush anything through. We're putting it out there in April, and we're gonna vote on it in May. That's just a small thing that we can just show we're being very clear with what we're doing. We're not trying to rush. Does that make sense? I think it's those little things that over the next couple of years, we've really got to be focusing on to communicate a message to everybody.
I'm not going to disagree, but I think there are certain things, these are business meetings, they're meant to conduct the business of the board with the administration. So for that purpose, they're meant to get things done. And so I've sat on this board when there's been something brought, like to work session, and then we decided to go ahead and vote on it, and everybody was in agreement. Now, for tonight, for example, there was something about the Hawks that was brought up, and now we're going to do that at the next board. So I think everybody listens. I think, I don't want there to be the perception that that things are being rushed through. I don't think they are. I think there's plenty of time. We get the information we want. We always have the right to call the treasurer, the superintendent. They're more than available to help us understand something. So I don't, whether or not you're one meeting or 2 meetings, it seems to me there's plenty ample time for board members to get educated on any one subject and then come prepared to vote on it. If they're not, then we do it at the next meeting. There's nothing, it doesn't have anything to do with the community, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess that's where we're gonna have to agree to disagree, because I feel like in order to get buy-in with our community financially, these are the things that when a $900 and some thousand project was brought last month and voted on that same work session and brought to us 2 days earlier, that's something that's a struggle. And so that's why I think when we're talking a larger number, even $25,000, I think that's something, $1,000 is different. I think when you're looking at a $25,000 ticket, that's what I'm talking about. Something when we're looking at a larger financial number.
To be fair in that, I mean, we discussed that in a publicly held meeting on a subcommittee of the board. So this wasn't.
We discussed what?
The night lock system. I mean, that went through our safety committee, and that was a recommendation out of that committee to report to them to the board. So.
But we heard about it a couple of minutes before.
I mean, the system has been partially purchased in the Clear Creek building, and again, it was discussed in the subcommittee. I guess my point is, if we're going to have these subcommittees, we've got to at least extend some level of trust that what those committees are doing and bringing back to the board is the view of the community. And we have ample support and public participation there. So.
Okay, so we do need to discuss the purpose of the subcommittees, because that's not at all my understanding of that we wouldn't have any information about these, and we would just be asked to vote on them. That has not been my understanding of the committees, so clarification would be helpful.
Okay. Committee reports.
I had a budget finance committee, mine was a little short, I had a budget finance committee meeting on April 20th, and we had David Conley from Rockville Financial come in and we discussed our debt, our Alaska debt pools. We have several financings within that pool, and trying to look at maybe a creative way that we can do something about those pools, and maybe we're gonna try to refinance them or something. Also, we
Safety Committee, John Fennell.
Yep. We had a safety committee meeting just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it was great. We had 22 people there, which is, I think, a record for the safety committee. And of course, we were squeezed in downstairs in the curriculum conference area, so we were nice and cozy. But it was a great meeting. We had 3 student representatives, we had 3 parents, we had 2 representatives from the firefighters, 2 representatives from the police. So it was a great meeting that we had. I've already got believe it or not, I've actually got the minutes already uploaded. So woo! I still haven't got the ones done from April or from February yet, but I got May's done. So, but we talked about the lobby guard, which I talked about here earlier. We had a nice long discussion about the recent safety drills in the meetings and how we're changing some things up. And then we're also allowing some input from staff and students on how those occur and what we can do better and things like that, because we're trying to make them more realistic, but not too realistic. There's a fine line about that realism piece that's in there. We had a very long discussion about, how we should do those in the future. Nothing was decided, but we had some very good input on how those might look in the future as we go through this. Some additional items that we talked about, the board paying for the hardening of the doors, the night lock stuff. And then, there were concerns about some of the stuff about the ends of the buildings and at 5 Points in Dennis. And then we also talked briefly about some other ways that we can try to make the students and the staff feel better. The students that were there recommended that we send out a survey to the staff and students about what are some other things that we can do to make you feel safe. So we're going to look at doing some of those things. It's just, it was a very good meeting. It lasted an hour and a half. So it was one of our better safety committee meetings. Our next meeting is August 9th at 10 o'clock. I know that's before school starts, but unfortunately I've got to get it in because once school starts, it's, September's, it's so busy with the start of school, we can't have it in September. But what we'll start doing at that meeting is we're going to start planning our full-scale exercise that we have to do in 2019 to satisfy our the new requirements in the law and safety drills and things.
What does that look like?
Well, that would include something very realistic. Typically, I mean, it's going to be voluntary for staff and students, parents, anybody who wants to be involved, but it will involve a realistic type event that occurs at more than likely one of our schools, and then how we carry through from start to finish, how we implement our safety plan, and then anything else that we've talked about up till then. So, we had a tabletop, which is, it's in a room and we talk about these things, but this will actually be where we get out and we try to, we have a quote event in the building. We may have buses there, we may be transporting folks, we may have injuries. It just depends. And that's why we start, it takes about anywhere from about 8 months to a year to fully plan these things out to make sure they're done correctly. And we did over the summer, this summer, the fire department and the police department are going to be doing an exercise down here at Dennis area. So I'm not sure exactly what day that's going to be, but just a FYI, if you see a bunch of stuff going on at Dennis this summer, they're doing a drill similar to what we'll probably be doing next year.
Piggyback just real quick on what John's doing and leading into the Business Advisory Council. As an administrative team, we truly believe that these different committees are enhanced if students are involved. John actually had 3 students, a junior high student and 2 high school students on his committee to give insight, and I think all 3 were very participatory.
Very, very.
The Business Advisory Council, we had 18 people come. 3 of them were students. We put 4 students on the committee, 2 seniors, 2 juniors, seniors. The seniors that graduate are going to an Ohio school, and they will stay on our committee next year. As college students, we're going to add 4 students more next year. So we'll have 6 students, 2 seniors, 2 juniors, as well as 2 career technical students. We're really excited about that. This is the 4th meeting of this school year for the Business Advisory Council. Again, 18 people were in attendance. It lasted 90 minutes with 2 outstanding conversations. The first was a presentation by Randy Vargo and Dana Mitchell, similar to what we had at the board meeting about the parent speaker series. Well received by the group. They were then able to discuss ways to promote it better next year and even possible topics. And that's where our students really came into play there, talking about some of their struggles. Because we as 40, 50-year-olds think we know everything about students. We don't. And obviously they gave us some great information that are going to help Randy and Dana develop better sessions for next year. Then we went to a school safety update. Mr. Fennell talked about everything that we were doing, everything that was coming up, and discussing all of our partnerships with the 4 different agencies from Springboro, Clear Creek Township, police, sheriff, as well as the fire department. There were questions and ideas for the future. Again, a great meeting where we have a regional group of leaders coming together, just not a Springboro group, a regional group, helping us to look at the future, not just the color on the walls, but actually how education needs for the future. Our next meeting will be, boy, I think it's going to be in August. I don't have that. Well, wait a minute. October will be our next meeting to set up for 4 for next week. All right. Mr. President, that's committee reports.
All right, I have several items for you tonight. The first item is the April 2018 financials. I won't go into these in very much detail because we just talked about the 5-year forecast for a while and everything that we rolled is incorporated in the 5-year. We did run $27,000 under budget for the month compared to projections. We have a cash balance ending April at $13.7 million. This will be where we start to see our revenue taper off for the rest of the year. We're done receiving tax advances and our tax settlements. So we'll be receiving small amounts of revenue month over month with our expenditures still staying steady. So that will be where we'll see our cash balance go down to around $9.6 million that we're expecting to end in June. My next item will be for the approval of the 5-year forecast that we just went over. My next item is approval of the summer school athletic camp process. So I'll give you a real brief explanation on this. We had our fiscal year audit and we did outstanding. We had nothing. I mean, it was a perfect audit. We didn't even have any management letter or anything in writing, so that was wonderful. During that audit, there was a request to do an audit on our camps. So that audit happened and we came out and they said everything that you did, your processes are great, so you don't have to change any process. But they gave a verbal recommendation that we should probably get the process on paper because basically we just walk them through what we do, but we don't have any formal written process of how we do things. So they suggested that we do a written process in order for the board to approve, just so that if this ever comes up again, now we have it as a formal process. So I did provide you last week with the process that we're already doing, with the addition of one item, which is where we're not using ticket tracker, which I think this is going to streamline things a lot and be a lot, make things go a lot smoother. We won't have a bunch of money being transferred back and forth between coaches, from years to coaches and things. Everyone will be paid through ticket tracker unless they show up at the day of the camp and want to be a last minute. Then we'll collect those revenues, but then we're still going to be adding them into ticket tracker so that we can have an entire process. Everything will be in ticket tracker, even if they do show up that day with money. So that's pretty much the only new thing that will be starting for this upcoming year. Everything else is our process that we already have in place. I will be bringing the camp worker payments and coaches payments now to the board, whereas we have done that in the past. The board approves the workers. They've already approved those people, but they don't approve the payment. And that's because we haven't needed to do that because it's more of a reimbursement because it's being collected to a camp fund and then whatever is in that camp fund is then what's reimbursed out to the camp workers and the coaches. So it's more of a reimbursement process, but we just figured just to be more transparent, we'll go ahead and bring those for the board to approve from now on. Just so that was the only real verbal recommendations that they gave us for that process. So that's why I have this on here tonight for you guys to approve.
So with that, reimbursement then be on their W-2s as income, so it'll be a taxable?
Yes, and that already happens. That already happens. So if you are a coach, then it goes through the payroll process, which means retirement's taken out, Medicare, taxes and everything, and then on your W-2s, it's listed under other income. So
Even
it's
as a
all-
reimbursement?
Yep.
It does?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
but
it's just that it didn't come
as
to
part of the
us.
personnel items in front
Right,
of us.
in
and
the
now it
past,
will.
it hasn't came
Gotcha.
through personal lines, but it is came through payroll. And so what it was is, we didn't look at it where the board needed improvement because it wasn't board funds that were being used to pay these people.
Right,
It was, they're
right.
paying the fee to go to camp and
Okay.
then we reimburse. So just, just to change our cost level, we'll look at it, even though we'll be paid out of board funds.
Okay, thank you.
Just as that process. So I wanted to solidify that. Our next items, these are the more exciting items that are on the agenda. The approval of the sponsorship agreement with Watkins Eaton Cooling. So they have, we have entered into a 10-year contract with them for naming rights. So it's basically, it's more of a dual naming rights because it's still Care Flight Field. It'll just be Care Flight Field at Watkins Stadium. So MBH was very gracious enough to understand that we were trying to get some sort of revenue in order to be able to complete this track project. So they were very open to understanding and be willing to share that, those naming rights with Watkins. So there's another item that you'll see here in a minute, that the reason for this is we were doing a sponsorship agreement which will solidify that those payment amounts of $45,000 a year for 10 years to total $450,000. Because in a minute, we'll talk about another item, which is why it was so important for us to have this agreement in writing. So this is wonderful, and I think I know we're very thankful for Austin and everyone for this gracious, awesome sponsorship.
Well, not only that, it was an agreement that really works well with Springer Health, Mineville Hospital, and Watkins together. This is a great relationship. Both are going to be great partners. Our relationship with both is outstanding, and both are excited to work together.
The next item that I have is also the boosters have stepped up and offered $20,000 a year for 4 years to also help with the turf and track. So we are entering into an agreement with them as well for them to donate $20,000 a year for the next 4 years. So coupled with the $80,000 and the $450,000 from Watkins, plus the $426,000 that we already have in our track and field maintenance fund, that is what's going to be able to cover that entire project.
To add on to that, the athletic boosters really stepped up to the plate here. Had an outstanding conversation with Mr. Rhodes, as athletic director. That group came together and wanted to support this school district. We were very fortunate to be working with them.
And so my next item, this is where I talked about a second ago about the agreement with Watkins. So they're going to be getting $45,000 a year. So what we had to do is we had to go we need to obtain financing to go ahead and get that money so that we can go ahead and get the project done. And then the $45,000 a year that Watkins will be paying the school for the sponsorship is what's going to be used to pay for this debt. So there will be no general fund dollars being used to pay for this debt that I have on here for approval. It will be the $45,000 to structure the debt and interest amortization schedule in order for the $45,000 a year to cover this resolution to obtain financing. And it looks like Fifth Third has won the bid, so we will be using Fifth Third, which is wonderful because they're already our main bank, so they came in at the lowest price, so the lowest interest rate. So that's what that item is. And then my last item will be a devotion of $470.49 from the Springer Athletic Boosters for team sports fundraiser days. Those are all the things.
Okay. 4.8, is there a motion to accept 4147?
So moved.
Dan,
And
Oh,
This
that's,
end of the
second.
you seconded?
Charles.
Sorry, I said that.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Palage?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Stuckey?
I will be abstaining from a number of things coming up due to the fact that they involved athletic items, And since I'm a volunteer football coach, it's been determined that I'm not allowed to vote on this stuff. So I will abstain to this one, among some others.
Superintendent items. 5.1 is the approval of the 2019-20, excuse me. Oh, break. Let's take a break. 30 seconds. Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to ask for first to just approve 5.1, 2019-20 school calendar. We can have a motion for that.
Is there a motion for 5.1?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bath.
Yes.
Palage.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Stuckey.
Yes.
Next three items are consent agenda, the approval of the 2018-19 fee to participate fees, approval for the 2018-19 athletic pass fees. Both of those items were discussed earlier in work session. And 5.4 is the approval of resolution to authorize the 2018-19 membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. This is something that the board takes care of every year at this time.
Is there a motion to accept 5.2 and 5.4?
So moved.
Second.
So there was no cost to that membership, is that right? That's just something we're part of? I didn't see a cost in that.
Mr. Rhodes, there's not a cost to the membership of Ohio High School. No.
You got handed the candy jar.
Roll call.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bath.
Yes.
Palage.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Stuckey.
Abstain.
President, members of the board, for her first report at a board meeting, our new director of human resources, Carrie
You're supposed to be next to John.
I know, I'm sorry, Jim.
Good evening, members of the board. I am here to present my first report, done in conjunction with Kristen Black. She's worked hard on this report. It's longer than normal because these are the yearly renewals for our teachers. But at the top, you're going to see 4 resignations, and then an approval to employ a classified personnel member, which is a replacement from last month when there was a resignation. Following that, are broken down by 1 years, all of our 1-year renewals recommended by principals, our 2-year renewals, contract renewals, and then finally, lines 137 through 139 are the 3 continuing contracts that we are awarding to teachers. Lines 140 all the way through 174, that is summer, those are approvals for summer personnel. That'll be our extended school year services that we provide, our Title I, and then below our substitute employees that we utilize throughout the summer to do different types of jobs for us. Finally, there 187 through 189 are 3 leave of absences for the remainder of this school year.
Move forward with voting on that one first.
Yep.
Is there a motion to accept 6.1?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson.
Yes.
Bath.
Yes.
Palage.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Stuckey.
Yes.
Second, we have our athletic personnel report. We are excited, Austin, and I was on that second round of interview teams to recommend Kyle Longworth as the athletic coordinator to join our team. Outstanding young man. I think he's going to be a great addition to Austin's program. And then right below that, he is going to get started, hitting the ground running and help Austin and the athletic department with summer camps. So that's an approval for 10 extended days.
And this is to replace Amy McSherry?
Wait,
Not really.
we're not
Well, I mean,
replacing
they're
it.
different titles.
Right.
She's retiring and they,
It's that third body in that office.
Okay, right. That we already discussed.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
6.3.
That's the JV coach.
Approval of the.
Oh, I didn't get
The
it.
approval of the JV
Sorry,
coach.
I didn't get-
No, it's okay.
Oh, my-
It's because it changed.
It
It changed, see?
And 6.3 is approval of the JV golf coach that Austin presented.
Okay, is there a motion
That's why I'm here.
to approve 6-2, 6-3?
Sorry.
I only got 4 of these today.
I know. I know. That's
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Palage?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Abstain.
Cook.
Thank you.
There you go.
Mr. Stuckey, members of the board, I respectfully request approval of the 2018-19 school fees previously presented in this evening's meeting.
There's no motion to accept 7-1.
Second.
All
Did the second?
Yes.
It's hard to even.
Believe that.
Sunday's
Here, like that. Sorry about that. I was trying to get over there to do that in between. We're not normally here this time of day.
Roll call.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yes.
I was trying to do
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Mr. President, members of the board, for your consideration tonight, 8.1 is approval of the 2018-19 school lunch prices. These prices are the same as they've been the last 2 years. The last year, we requested a waiver for this. They've changed the rules. We don't have to request a waiver anymore as long as we carry a balance. And you know, Kathy Poor and her team does a great job of maintaining a good balance within the food service fund. So we are leaving our prices the same for school lunches next year. 8.2 is approval of the,
Now we need.
oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry, I was just moving on.
Is there a motion to accept 8.1?
Second.
I knew it, they changed it, but I still would.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Palage?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say, sorry, I got the, I got it when it was on this side of the room. That was good, but.
It impacts his hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
The blinds are broke.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We'll stand there in the box. Yeah.
I'm too short.
All right, look at that. Look at that. He's going to hold the table up.
How's the problem solver?
You're gonna fall off the.
Yeah. No, it doesn't work. Here.
Hold it up.
There you go. All righty. 8.2 is approval of the contract services for the artificial turf and constructing track improvements at the high school football field with the Moats Group. They've been working with us hand in hand with the financing agreement and all that. We've been working with them for months on this. This is under the co-op purchase agreement, so that's why we don't have to go through a bidding process or anything with it, because it is under the co-op agreement. So there's a set price that we get a great price, and they are managing the whole process, the field track and the field turf replacement. So we're able to coordinate that better so that we're not stepping on everybody's toes and we're able to get done. We've already had some meetings with them. We got the submittal process done. They're going to be bringing some equipment out tomorrow and then start on Monday tearing up the track, which is, oh my God, in dire need of help. So, and our field turf, we might have been able to get one more year out of without being out of specs on the hardness of the field. So it's time to get done. We've got to get it done. Yes, it's the intent. The intent is, if you look in the what was included here, they're expecting to be done by July 31st with
You don't
both.
know how many socks I've ruined going home from that field with all that green stuff on it.
Well, it's hard. I mean, and that's why we had to move now, and thank goodness for Watkins for stepping up and being able to do that. You know, and we're working with some local companies on the signage and stuff like that, and there might be some other good stuff that'll be coming your way next board meeting on that.
Makes us want to come back, Tom.
Yes.
Is there a motion to accept 8.2?
So moved.
Second. Wait till your name's called.
I'll hit you, so you know.
I have a question. Austin, is it gonna be two-tone turf?
Yes, it is. It'll alternate every 5 yards.
Yes.
5 yards.
Every 5 yards.
So it'll be like dark, like, look like it's
Yep.
mowed, kind of
Yep.
have that look to it.
It won't be drastic, but it'll
Right.
be there.
Right. No, no blue.
So I learned when I went to a lacrosse game, because I don't have lacrosse players, but I went to a game this year, that there needs to be a mark in the middle of our
Yep.
panther head. Will this have that in there since this is new?
To try
Tape it?
to try to encompass all of the teams that could play there, we've, instead of having all of the marks on the football field, as far as all the lines, because we would be putting soccer, girls and boys lacrosse,
right,
we've
right.
decided to put tick marks where the lines would go, and then they can spray paint the lines when necessary.
Right.
So that's gonna be another kind of tick mark situation where
Yep.
then they can add that, if they needed to have that for a lacrosse game. Obviously.
So spray tape doesn't hurt that.
No, and
Well,
they'll give us
there-
the proper.
right, there's-
proper
yeah, there's
technique
special
of removal. But since we play so many of our lacrosse and soccer games at Wade Field, we only play a few games, but it will be available for field rentals and things like that, having the tick marks and being able to paint the line. Right now, they paint lines anyway,
Right.
but they don't have the tick marks. This will probably make their lines a little bit more accurate.
Yeah.
You know, it's just.
If you look at the packet that was included, you'll see there are different colored tick marks in here. You can't see the gray, which is the other color. It doesn't show up real well on this. But that shows you where all the tick marks are, so.
So the only lines are on the outside of the football field.
Right.
And then they'll connect with the tick marks, so.
It's gonna be nice.
It will.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Palage?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Abstain.
Thank you.
Move on to board announcements. In item 9, we have 2 motions that first amend the agenda and then approve the $1,000 donation that was talked about earlier. So we'll do 2 separate motions.
Is there a motion to amend the agenda, 9.1?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. No,
Dan.
Jane.
And I second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Palage?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes. 9.2, approval $1,000 donation from the Board Budget Institute Fund to Clear Creek Sensory Garden. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bath?
Yes.
Palage?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Stuckey?
Yes.
Now announcements.
Any agenda item?
That's it. 9.3.
Okay. Okay. Well, this, okay.
Board announcements.
Okay. Mr. Good.
Yeah, real quick, thank you to the Clear Creek staff, the teachers, the first grade students, and of course Ms. Porter for coming in and presenting the sensory garden. That's awesome. I can't say enough about how cool that is. Brilliant idea to use that space in the middle of the school. I mean, it's such a weird setup, so the fact that you guys have found a great use for it, kudos. Let's see, thank you to Watkins Heating and Cooling. I think that goes without saying that is a great donation, and it's going to really help us out for the next decade. And looking forward to watching our athletics there at Watkins Stadium for the next 10 years. So that's going to be awesome. And, back to Clear Creek. Thanks for the ice cream. 2.5-hour work. And then, real quick, on the financials, I know we've had a lot of discussion about this, but I think it is worth saying once again, we operate on a razor-thin margin, and the fact is, even though we say we operate on one, we're quite frankly not living up to a lot of our capital obligations right now. I mean, the fact that we have facilities that aren't getting the attention that they deserve, that accrues in terms of our obligations and the outstanding items that we've done. My concern is that it's not what we know needs done. It's that there's gonna be something that comes up that we don't know. And that that's a, 6-7 figure item that comes out of the blue. That changes pretty significantly our financial outlook very quickly. So again, I think that's incredibly important for us to, Ms. Babb said that, I think we need to articulate that that's a real risk and a concern. I think as a board, as we go through this planning exercise, over the course of the next several board meetings, that's going to be critical. One thing I will point out that, I think that we can focus on as the board is to look at potentially restructuring our balance sheet a little bit. I think there's some opportunities there to reduce our debt. And, I think that's really incumbent on us to focus on that and see what our options are, because quite frankly, some of the situations we're in from a debt perspective are ridiculous, and we need to do our best to get out of it, because that's money that's coming out of taxpayers' pocket that I think is not well spent. So we need to focus on that, and that contributes directly back to putting funds back into the district that they should go versus into the other funds, quite frankly. Thanks.
Very good. I couldn't have said it better. I just like to, and as far as transparency, we expect Mr. Bud to be here at every meeting from now on. You can't be any more transparent than have a day news here.
Usually watch the
every meeting.
recordings.
So we expect to see you. And just a thank you to Watkins Heating and Air Conditioning, the local company on Main Street in Springboro. It's huge. I mean, that was really great that they pitched in and helped us. And thank you to Premier and for them. And I know Dan and the staff and treasurer worked hard to make sure that all went together. So thanks to them for helping us make that work. So that was good. It was great for kids, and that's what this is all about. So thanks to those two corporate entities that in this case helped out Springboro School.
We were asked by a teacher to help promote, I didn't even know that we had a car club here at the high school, but we do. Is this new this year?
New this year.
It's totally cool. So I did want to promote it. It is Saturday, May 19th from 8 to 1 at the high school. It's called Cars for a Cause. And it is from 8 to 1, it's $5 car to come and see.
Yep.
And it's going to benefit wounded warriors, but we also have one of our custodians here who is battling cancer, and so there's going to be donations for A&D.
Yep.
I just think what a great way for one of our organizations to give back to somebody that they see around the high school, and if you're here at all, you see Andy. So he's just been through a lot this year. So I didn't even know that we had a car club. I think it's absolutely amazing. So I'm going to try to come because I think it's awesome. So May 19th, and it's here at the high school from 8 to 1. Yep. So encourage you to come to that. This is also Teacher Appreciation Week. So I know, first off, thanks to all the parents that have stepped up and helped out in doing lots of cool things. I've seen all kinds of stuff on Facebook of the different things that parents have done to organize things, special things for the teachers and administrators at the buildings. And thank you to the teachers to just feel, hopefully they feel the appreciation that we have for them. I saw going into Quick Creek, actually, somebody obviously does chalk art. It was absolutely amazing what they did to welcome them. And that's something that I wish our teachers felt more regularly, because I think that that's what's in parents' hearts of we recognize that we give you our students every day. You see them more than we see them. So thanks to the teachers. You know, I recently read on one of our Facebook pages about 5 Points. We have a couple teachers there that greet kids every single day. You've seen it, those of you that were 5 Points kids, that they dance and greet kids by name every single day. I'm going to try to get there before the end of the school year and just sit and watch it, because I don't have kids at 5 Points. So I just think, what a neat thing, what a special way for these kids to walk into school. Kyle could do it here at the high school, he's showing it to us. So, you know, you've got things like that. I had actually already had the sensory garden because I was kind of hearing about that. That was already one of the things that, you know, that group of teachers did not need to go out of their way, but that's something that they're doing above and beyond to put this together. That just shows the quality that we have. You know, once you get kids at the high school, it's not typical that you hear from teachers, like your kid's doing well. I had just had one of my kids say, I don't know when I'm gonna pass this class, it's just so hard. Literally that day in the mail, we get a note from his teacher saying, well, I just have seen such incredible, amazing things from your son this year. I can't tell you, Mrs. Axton is just such a cheerleader and has walked next. I mean, this is amazing stuff. So I just want to give a shout out to the teachers. This is the kind of stuff that we have on a regular basis, and it doesn't just stop at the elementary level. It's all the way through of teachers and administrators supporting our kids in just amazing ways. So the last thing was just thank you for the support in allowing me to go to the Board Leadership Institute the end of April. It was awesome. I'd love to share back with anything. There was lots of neat sessions I got to go to and networking, and it was just, there was things on diversity, and you know, I'm a big advocate of that, and there was some preschool stuff that I wanted to talk with you about, just with some things I learned from Hamilton schools near Columbus. It was just, you know, there's so many things you can learn from different schools and perspectives you hear that I think, gosh, I never even thought of that. So it's just a great way to develop and be a better board member and learn to be a stronger board so that we can support the community better. So I appreciate the opportunity to go. That's it.
Well, this will be repetitive, because you guys have touched on a lot of these things, but my thanks as well to the folks from Clear Creek that were here for the presentation. I think, you know, what stood out the most, you know, as Lisa sort of alluded to, the initiative of our staff, you know, to take that upon themselves, to recognize the need, and to put in the work to make that a reality. I just think it's great, and it speaks volumes about the quality of you know, our staff here and their commitment to doing what's best for our kids. So. And like Dan, I would also like to thank you for the ice cream. I've not eaten the second one. I had to refrain from eating the second one. The first one was very good. So thank you again. What's that? I could drink it now, yeah. I know we talked about this earlier, but just to build a little bit on what Mr. Pinnell shared, we had a safety committee meeting. I guess it was yesterday. I would adjust. It was many days ago. Yeah. Apparently it's been a long day. But it was great to see the participation, particularly to have the students there. So my thanks to Mr. Martin, Mr. Franks for bringing the students in. You know, they contributed a lot to the meeting. It was great to hear their perspective. So I just appreciate the fact that they were able to take the time out of their day to come participate in that, along with community members, our first responders that were there. I think it was a great discussion, really productive discussion. You know, and obviously there's still work to be done there, but I thought it was a great first step. So just thanks for that. I too wanted to share my appreciation for the donations that we talked about this evening. Watkins Heating and Cooling, certainly, you know, we want to recognize them and thank them. That's just such a transformative gift, and just really appreciate their partnership. But also our boosters. You know, the fact that they stepped up and came alongside us, you know, in this project. I mean, that's again just shows great commitment from them as well. And just, you know, I know there was a lot of work that went into all of this. So Austin, and I know we utilized Mr. Westerfield with side effects, and you know, Tara for the work that you did in, you know, getting our access to that money that was left in the Oasville pool. I mean, so just thank you to everybody that had a hand in making this a reality. I mean, this has been a need that's been out there and hanging over us for some time, and so it's great to finally see it come to fruition, that we're able to address that. So my thanks to everybody who had a hand in making that a reality. Also wanted to thank Tara for the work on the 5-year. I know it's such a huge undertaking, and I appreciate the time and energy that you put into that, to laying it out and being transparent about, you know, where things have changed and where we have issues down the road that we need to focus on. So just appreciate the hard work that you and the team put in to making that happen. You know, a couple times a year that we really dive deeply into that. So thank you. You know, just to build on that, and we've touched on a little bit in that conversation, just, you know, some issues around the transparency and the roles of committee and those sorts of things. And I think, you know, that's good, healthy discussion for us on the board. And I'd like us to continue maybe in some of our other work sessions or retreats that we can make some time to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of you know, how we're operating. And again, I think, you know, I certainly think we try to operate as transparently as possible, but it doesn't mean we can't continue to look for ways to ensure that that's always demonstrated for the community. So I just appreciate the discussion on that topic and look forward to continuing that in some future sessions. And then because this is our last meeting of the year, I just wanted to extend my thanks to all of our staff, our administrators, our students. I think from where I'm sitting, it was a great year. And I really appreciate all of the work that goes into making that happen. So I hope that as we wind down here, I guess it's 2 weeks from today, right? Mm-hmm. 2 weeks from today is the last day of school. So just as we're into the home stretch, I just want to extend my gratitude for all the work that you've put in throughout the year to make this just a very successful school year. So thank you.
Everybody stole my thunder. Want to thank the first graders for coming in and the presentation. I'm glad that we as a board are going to be able to help them move forward with their project. Same thing everybody else has said. Thanks to Watkins Heating and Air, the boosters, and Tara for digging that up, to find that extra money going back to the money that was and being a part of that area down there, there's no doubt it needed it. The track, we haven't had a home track meet in 2 years or something like that, maybe at the high school level. So it's going to be beneficial to a lot of people. Also was going to say thanks to all the teachers and staff and administration. Thanks for a great year, and hope they have a good summer. That's it for me.
Hear me how fast it goes.
Just a few updates that I have, and also some of our administrators have a couple of student success stories tonight. I appreciate that they mentioned about the car club. We are excited about that. In fact, a couple weeks ago, they asked me to be one of the judges. So I'm looking forward to judging some cars in a couple of Saturdays. I do want to reiterate, too, and I appreciate Mr. Bellage mentioning side effects. We talked a lot about Watkins heating, the cooling, and Watkins heating air conditioning. And obviously, what Mr. Rhodes, Mr. Martin, Ms. Floyd has done was remarkable. The side effects that Bob Westerfield helped make that happen, too. He's had a lot of meetings, and his work with this project, he's not getting a commission for. He wanted to work with Springboro schools, and he wanted to help us in this project, and we publicly thank him for that. I also want to make an announcement. We just learned today officially, Ohio School Boards Association actually had mentioned to me, they had learned in Columbus, believe it or not, about the Leadership Academy that we have going on, and asked us to put a proposal in for capital conference. So Andrea Cook, Tracy Griffin, Brady Marshall, and I will be presenting on Sunday at OSBA Capital Conference about our Springboro Leadership Academy. Very exciting. Very excited last week. The Chamber of Commerce asked me to come and do a State of the Schools address at their monthly networking breakfast. I said, that's great, we'll be there, but I want to bring some kids. And I want to give a shout out to Kinley Smith, Abby Locke, and Hannah Stumple. They came with me, and as part of the presentation, we talked about 10 or 12 highlights that had happened over the last year. Those 3 students talked about specific highlights. Kinley Smith, one of the leaders of our junior ROTC team, that won the state championship for the 2nd straight year this year. Abby Locke won our high school varsity swim team, which was one of the most successful, if not the most successful, athletic team here at Springboro Schools. And Hannah Stumple, one of our 4 National Merit Scholars. Each one of them talked about their specific highlight and then how that area has made an impact in their personal life. And finally, on Saturday, May 26th at 3:00 p.m., 483 seniors graduating at another center. We look forward to having all of them there. With that being said, we've got a couple of people that are going to share just a couple of things. Carrie Porter, you're first.
Well, again, thank you for the donation towards the sensory garden. I know Ms. Krugerberg said that wasn't our intent at all, but we appreciate that, and really the outpouring of families in our community who have given. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Ms. Jones had to leave, but on behalf of her and I, we're coming to the end of our first year together, and we absolutely love it. We've had a great year building relationships with staff and families, and we continue to want to do that. Again, I think the first grade in lieu of a celebration, the idea of an ice cream social for first grade was kind of a nice time. Last night we had over 1,000 people join us. So we were so glad the weather held out, just a few sprinkles here and there. But it was just a nice time for families to come together and mingle, and the kids were great. And we want to be able to continue to do more family activities in the future.
Mr. Rhodes?
I just want to just kind of give a shout out and success to a group I feel like that gets not very much notice. That's the spring sports athletes. Sometimes in the spring, everybody's focused on prom and spring break and summer and graduation, and those kids are out there performing every day, and not as many people are going to watch them. So our softball team won a tournament game last night. They've advanced to the district semifinal, so they'll be playing on Monday against Middletown. Our baseball team, I came over from the game, got a text when I got here. They finished off a victory against Fairmont 12-2, and they're going to be moving on into the district semifinal next Thursday. Our boys and girls lacrosse team start tournament play next week. They're both 15-2 right now, having great seasons. So they're looking to make a run at a state championship, both of them. They've got lofty goals. Our boys tennis team was the GWAC West National champion, or National Division champions this year, and they've done that a few years in a row now. And lastly, our track and field athletes, who probably are the most excited about the big news tonight and getting approval on a new track. They're having one of their most successful seasons in years, both the boys and the girls side. Last night they were at the GWAC meet and had their highest finishes in both boys and girls in a really long time. So I think they sometimes fly under the radar. I was a baseball player, so I know that it was just my mom and my girlfriend coming to my game. I had a girlfriend once. But, so yeah, not a lot of fanfare for those spring sports athletes. I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. We got great kids. We got great coaches, and happy to be a part of it.
Is the All Sports Trophy in jeopardy?
No, I think that's about 38 years in a row.
Before I turn it over to Martin, I believe you just heard our athletic director guarantee state championships in boys and girls lacrosse.
Yeah.
Mr. Martin.
Just a couple things before I get to our data piece. One, same as you guys have talked about, with Watkins and everything, but first off, to all of our teachers and in the district-wide, as far as Teacher Appreciation Week, and thanking them for everything they have done. Also, it's a pleasure to work with everybody. I assure you that, but I can't tell you how impressed I am daily working with Mr. Rose as our athletic director. To have an athletic director that is student-centered as he is, you don't find that everywhere. And I'm not just saying that because he's in the room, but he is phenomenal. He has done a lot of work organizing with John, with all the partnerships that have been going on and getting things in play. There are a lot of meetings that are happening to make that happen. So kudos to Austin and John for kind of driving that and keeping that moving forward to do what's best for our student athletes. One of the pieces of data that we follow a ton, especially myself, is the U.S. News and World Report rankings that come out yearly. So that is something that we check into. The U.S. News and World Report has high school rankings. They do it nationally. They do it by state. There's a 4-step process that you have to go through. They look at state tests as one step. You have underserved students in your building as a second step. A third step, then, they look at your graduation rate. And they also, then the 4th step, they look at the amount of AP tests that are being taken by your senior class, either that year or the year before, or the years before. When they do that 4-step process, you have to clear step 1 to then get to step 2. I mean, you have to clear step 2 to get to step 3. So, for example, there's criteria that they have that you have to meet. If you don't meet that step, you're out. So there's about 822 schools in the state of Ohio, high schools in the state of Ohio, that ended up making the rankings. And they ranked all 822 of those schools. Andrew, I think there might be 950 roughly high schools in the state of Ohio. This year we were 54th. Not as big of a jump as what I anticipated and hoped for, but to put it in perspective, and Andrew did a good job of doing this with me yesterday. 2 years ago we were 94th. So in 2 years we jumped up 50 spots. I was hoping to be top 40 this year. As I'm scrolling through, and I was excited, I got to 10, and I got to 15, I got to 20, then my excitement started my scrolling was a little slower as I was going through, but we were 54th. Last year we were 61st. So with all those pieces, as far as the data they look at to create those rankings, it's a very global look at how they do that. So I'm very excited about that. I revealed that to our staff yesterday because it came out Tuesday night late. So we're very excited about that as well. And we're continuing to improve. We're continuing to climb. So we got some work to do, but we're moving in the right direction. So thank you.
Ms. Cook?
All right, I don't think I have talked about this yet, but Mr. Wiggins and I have been working with our ESC partners in mental health and social emotional learning for countless hours since around December or January, trying to come up with some type of curriculum that would be easy for our teachers to implement with not a whole lot of training that all students could benefit from, grades K through 12. And we were thrilled last week when we took a team of educators, including counselors, administrators, and teachers, to the Making Middle Grades Work and High Schools at Work Best Practices Showcase, and found that what we've been working on was reinforced there. And our team was able to listen to some activities that other buildings are doing and jump on board, and there's a lot of excitement on that right now. So we're kind of honing in on a curriculum for our teachers, and we hope to get that kicked off in August and be able to see our students have a little bit easier time in school so that they can understand what's going through their mind, why their brains are doing what they're doing, why their behaviors are coming out. And some of the things that our secondary folks, some of the team were able to listen to is a mindfulness room, which is a place where students can go to get themselves calmed down before they go through a disciplinary process or a counseling process. So that's something that I know our middle levels are very interested in exploring. And some other areas were PBIS all the way through grade 9 through 12. And I know Kyle's on board with that, so we're going to be looking at making some changes whereby we're taking some ideas that originated in the elementary levels and extending those up into our upper levels at the high school. So we're really excited that we feel like the work that we've been putting together is finally coming to fruition with an activity for all of our students to take part in next year.
Awesome, thank you. And the last thing we'll say, and it's already been touched on by a few, this is staff appreciation. Send a note to the staff today. You know, our teachers are teaching authentic, exciting lessons, but our staff are just as important. You know, our bus drivers are the first faces those students see in the morning, the last ones they see in the afternoon. We have an amazing food service staff, amazing maintenance and custodial staff, our aides and our secretarial staff. It just goes on and on. Everyone that we have in this school district are part of an educational team. And this week we honor them for their amazing work in making this a better school district every week. President's all we have tonight. We do have a small executive session Mr. Blasey has asked for.
Yep. Need a motion to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of a public employee or official. Motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bad?
Yes.
Swampy?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Yes. There will be no action.